Hi, yes, I'm Sephiroth. If by chance you haven't seen any of my videos or you're here for this one, welcome! I want to do a little reflection bit on the grind, stuff I learned, motivations, etc. If anything, treat this video like a little story session by someone who just got back home from a mountain hike. I've been hard grinding a few things over this year, but one of the main personal goals I had was the 1000 origami axes, which I finished back in May, and upgraded them recently too. When Rise was first out, I didn't even know about the axes until a few days later. It wasn't exactly that I rushed, but more so that I didn't do the side quests and all that. But that's beside the point I'm trying to make today. I took one good look at the axes and thought to myself, wow, it would be real hilarious to have 1000 of these. And that was really that. I did talk about it on stream every now and then, but I didn't really start until early April. I mean, it's not my first rodeo when it comes to a really big grind.
World's rarest screenshot!
So I started my quest. I did a few a day, but my first tweet on it was done on April 9th, where I posted 11 and called it the world's slowest grind. Then it just started going from there. I'm a fan of the saying, show your work. You know, like junior school. And that was what I really did for the next month of the grind. I'd post updates of the grinds, how much I did, maybe a few clips here and there. Since if I just posted the final result, nobody would believe it was real. So if I can tell you anything, a big grind means nothing if you don't document your journey. Though I did learn this last year when I was jumping from 99 to 999 in Iceborne. Now, with that in mind, here comes a funny little happening. By the time I tweeted nearing 150s or so, the general consensus was, why? Good luck, Godspeed, except one person who was, why are you wasting your time, there's nothing at the end. Said person also private messaged me with these words, I did 1000 in a week, there's nothing there, it's just a troll post. Well, for one, I'm here for the hiking trip, and not the final photograph at the peak of the mountain. I was also sent screens and all, and truthfully, I did lose a bit of gusto that day since I went, damn, now I really have to document everything. I mean, what's the point of hiking if you don't enjoy the way, right? I did calculate it was impossible, time-wise, to do 1037 within a week, so if anything, all they did for me was tell me, hey Seth, you can build and fit 1000 axes in your inventory. So thank you, random person, I will forget you. That aside, that little happening made me realize something. The only difference between someone who cheated and someone who achieved is presentation. It's why speedrunners show their gear at the end of their runs. In a way, adds to the legitimacy. Sure, my grind wasn't a speedrun, but I wanted to show how far I had to go to get the first 1000 axes. Moving on now, I kept going at it every day. I'd start up, get 5 tickets, get the mats, craft 5, go back, get more tickets, get the other mats, craft another 5. Although when I was around 150 or so, something amazing happened. While I was streaming my usual viewer hunt and all, I was sent a link to Twitter from one of my longtime followers. It was a Reddit post by the Walrus Wrangler, where they said, I know at least one of you is crazy enough to pull this off. And to my surprise, another user named Rythian mentioned me on 153, which was the latest update tweet at the time. I frankly didn't expect any of my grind to go beyond that, honestly, in terms of publicity. I've posted on Reddit before, I knew how things worked, I knew what people liked at the time, but ankle deep into my grind at the time, I just went, yeah, that's something I'm doing. Cool, someone mentioned me in the thread about it. Anyway, we're gonna hit 200 today. And I really just brushed it off. I had a goal in mind and I wanted to reach it. I was contacted by the Games Reader journalist who decided my little grind was worth a story. Thanks, Austin. Hopefully you're listening. truth be told, I already thought of the wish at that point. But when I was asked, the most important question is, what will you wish for when you hit 1000? I scoured my Monster Hunter Frontier screenshots folder and uploaded the first picture I could see. I think this was the Goku gathering over on the Freedom 10 servers. Exactly 100 players, which was the hall's maximum in Mezeporta, all in the duck hunting horns around the main square. I guess in a way I made people aware these ducks existed. I made people aware that Frontier wasn't just all sticks, magnets, and flashy lights. I've made two completely unrelated things related. At least for a good number of people. For the record, I knew it was going to be hard for the devs to implement this, despite it sounding like a good PR stunt to most people. Well, if they grant my wish, other people will go for 1000 as well. They can't play favorites, though I'd still like it if the Gokus are brought in from the Frontier's ashes. Those poor ducks need a home. Sure, PC Rise modding will have ducks very easily placed into it, but I personally see a little difference in that. Let me give an example. It's like having a bike, and everyone also has a bike. We all gave it something different. Bells, whistles, a new seat perhaps, fiery paint, and sometimes our friend sees what we did to ours and decided, wow, I want a whistle for my bike as well. This is modding. Some mods are allowed, like changing the rim of your tires. Some mods are illegal, like strapping a nail to the side of the pedals. But it's something we do on our own person. It's something we can freely decide what is ours to have a different experience riding said bike. That's my personal view on it. Agree to disagree if you'd like, I'm not gonna hold you back on it. Who am I to say how you should play Monster Hunter, right? Trying to get the ducks in, disregarding all the legal work, the implications of implementing it as I said before, is like the manufacturer of said bike giving all the bikes a rubber grip, for example. It's something everyone can mod or edit or anything on their personal level, but it's there by default. It's a feature of the bike, a factor of varied significance for every user. But yeah, I did the grind for the journey. I enjoyed the journey, despite my occasional tired tweeting. There are days where I felt wary, of course, but there are days where I was going turbo as well. This video is pretty much me highlighting a few of that. Amazing, right? Placing the point of the video smack dab in the middle of it, so people have to watch to know. And by this point, you might as well finish it, right? Or maybe you're just genuinely interested in the story. What am I to say? Anyway, beyond the first couple of weeks of grind, it was pretty uneventful until the end. I did post the current count of the day every day, but generally people were either rooting for me to see what happens, rooting for me because this grind is massive, or just commending me for my determination going through it. And I thank every one of those comments. I'm not exactly the most confident Monster Hunter player, or the best, or far from it. But I try my best, and those comments really helped me through those days. It was around this stage or so of the grind I decided to plan all the upgrades to the axes as well. I wouldn't be maxing them out since the flavor text for Petal Cloud says your wish has been granted until the devs do. The method of my grind has evolved for more efficiency by then. When I was starting off, I would first collect the Kimura tickets, which I got in batches of 5, then go on collecting all the other materials. I'd end that loop by crafting 5 axes. As I was grinding, I realized, if I just collect 30 tickets for that day first, then collect the materials required for 30 axes, then there'll be a bit of overflow on the quest count, maybe I'd get another 5 or 10. So I changed up my formula and did just that. My Kimura ticket grind went from 15 to 30, eventually 40 in a single day by the end of it. Mind you, this was done by roly-poly resetting at the time, so roughly 40 minutes per batch, averaging at 8 minutes per ticket. I'll get back to this number later on. All the Almudron were now mounted, ridden, so I could pick up all the shinies. The Volvidon were super speed killed with slicing, and all the Afnesom were captured, which gave me another chance of crest every now and then. And on May 11th, just before update 2, I finished my grind, streamed the last set of axes to craft, and did a charity along with it too for Make-A-Wish, and super happy about how I did. I never had so many people waiting to see me finish a grind before. It was great. It was exciting, it was also exhausting. I know I've said this a few times on my socials, but 1,000 is not a small number. Posted my stats, my kill count, how much playtime it took for the grind. People knew it was legitimate, people were waiting for me to make that wish. Just the thought of that made my entire year, to be honest to you guys. The replies to that Twitter post I still keep somewhere in case I'm having a bad day, and I do tend to have a lot of that. I got reached out by Automaton, a Japanese gamer news site. Austin did a follow-up on the story saying I completed the 1000. I posted on Reddit for extra imaginary internet points, but the main bit of story I wanted to tell here is how my extended family caught wind of this feat because a cousin posted it on the family WhatsApp. I didn't even think about saying this to them since they have this is your world, not ours kind of mindset with video games. My parents contacted me that night, asked about the grind. I went, yeah, I did that, but who told you? To my surprise, I opened up the extended family chat, and everyone was cheering on me too. Up until this day, my nephew wants to be like master of the game, Uncle Seth, and I'm like, I'm flattered, but please reconsider, kid. Now, after posting the tweet, I was heading off to reach 999 before Monster Hunter Stories 2. It didn't really happen. I was severely burnt out after just passing 700. I was planning to head back home to my hometown anyway, so I took that as a chance to rest. I managed to get all caught up on Final Fantasy XIV, Zadnor Buzzja prep for Endwalker speed leveling, finished my backlog of a couple video games and all. Come September, I was ready. I took that steering wheel and beelined it straight to the finish line. I decided to do things a bit differently this time around. Instead of crafting it in batches of 5, I would collect all the materials first before upgrading them all in one go. The first on the list was the Rathalos Marrows, which took the longest of this step. I could only take low rank Rathalos, and each Rathalos backbreak had a somewhat total of 30% Marrow reward. I had to capture a few at the start, but ultimately just decided to use the 1 minute finish to head back to camp, restock, and sit in there until I'm kicked out. That way I spend less time outside overall between Rathaloses. And I really just went with it. Since I had high rank gear, most of the time Rathalos is very close to death once I break the back, cut their tail, or both. Rathalos was done just before October. I took a day off and knocked out the Carbolite step in a day, only to begin the Achnsom step that night. Something a viewer mentioned to me was that I just turbocharged my grind for Achnsoms. I think it was the next day grinding I realized 60 feathers a day took less than an hour of Achnsoms, so I jokingly said, wow, I can probably do 300 a day and finish this in 10 days. My initial plan of 60 a day would mean I finish Achnsom step just before Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker's update, and I'd be able to farm Kimura tickets while Endwalker was up. Instead of doing the regular Achnsom quest, there was an event quest that gave extra chance of Feather Plus, better spawns, a guaranteed small crown, which I did a lot. So I obviously finished long before my goal. Basically, I quintupled my grind speed in a day and finished in about 12 days. I did take a couple days rest in between grinds. But what was more amazing in my opinion was the Kimura ticket Ibushi event. When it was released, I remember doing it once and the first thing I thought was, oh, this is wicked. We're finishing this grind in a week. This Kimura ticket Ibushi quest arrived at such an opportune time. I just finished all the other parts. I just needed the Kimura tickets. Of course, my first few solos of it were 10 minutes long, but as the fight went on, I made new sets, I learned small optimizations here and there, and my average time for that fight has gone down to roughly about 4 to 6 minutes. One of the runs I did was sub 4, and that really boosted my confidence that day. Amazing stuff happens when you just hunt more, I guess. And on October 21st, 6 days after the Kimura Ibushi quest was released, I finished all 1000 upgrades on stream. I got the last 9 tickets needed, I blasted some Eurobeat, and used my turbo button controller to press all 1000 upgrades, which took roughly 5 minutes or so to do. This was honestly a lot more fun to show and do than when I did the first 1000 back in May. People saw the progress better, the numbers were a lot bigger. During the 1000 craft on stream, it was also received pretty well by the viewers at the time. The Eurobeat was a bright red cherry on top. Made the tweet and called it a day. I guess that's all I want to reflect on, and a couple stories I want to tell until the end of the grind. If you stuck around this long in the video, I want to thank you so much for listening to a guy basically vent storytelling about essentially the world's silliest hike in the Monster Hunter game. In retrospect, I think I did a pretty good thing. I united a decent chunk of players for ducks, made my mark, and had a pretty good time through and through. And the grind kept me busy in Monster Hunter Rise. Now, as I close off this video, I want to thank you again for watching, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Ciao!